Hello, welcome to CUTV Newsbrief. My name is Galit Banrobi. This week's main topic is about the raise of tuition fees. Statistics Canada has released its report on the daily price index, and they have found that since last September, the tuition fees have jumped on average 11.8%. In Ontario alone, the tuition fees have jumped 20%. Tuition fees have increased every year for the past 10 years. This rise in tuition have been factors in the increase of part-time students and the decrease in application forms to universities. Last spring, Concordia applied for the rise of tuition fees. However, in Quebec, there was a fee freeze because of the number of protests last year. Some students of Concordia University think that the tuition fees are way too high, considering other expenses that they may have, such as books and school supplies, and some room and board. Whereas other students compare the tuition fees of Quebec to other provinces of Canada and the United States, where their tuition fees are much higher than over here.
I was just wondering if you thought tuition fees were too high at this moment.
Not necessarily, no. I don't think so, no.
No, not at all. Do you have any personal problems trying to adapt yourself to paying the tuition fees?
Yeah, I run out of loans, basically, myself. So, and I think maybe there should be some procedure made where you could maybe pay it in installments of some type, and not immediately the entire sum. Maybe the sum altogether itself may be too much to pay at one time. So that's what I think. But I think that's not necessarily too high compared to maybe the rest of the country or the states, something like that. Perhaps if education was government structured, then there in fact would be no fees, like somewhere in Europe, for example, where the universities are free. But I don't know. I guess that would have to change the entire system to accommodate that.
So would you have personal problems if tuition fees did go up?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would have personal problems because it's hard to pay all the fees and also live at the same time.
I need to know if you thought tuition fees were too high.
Yeah, sure. You want me to comment further, or?
You don't have to. Do you think that, do you have any personal problems actually trying to pay your tuition fees?
Well, not with student loans. No, they cover the fees. They don't pay for anything else, like living expenses or anything like that. But I mean, I don't see how they could be any lower, the fees, on the other hand.
What do you think would happen if the tuition fees went up? For you personally, or?
For me personally, I don't think I'd be able to attend school. It would probably be like it was, 50 years ago for people who had money. Not necessarily for people who were bright enough to go to university, but for people who could pay it.
So good to know if you thought tuition fees were too high?
Well, to be honest, I come from the States, so I don't think they're that high, but still, for some people who don't have enough money, I think it's high. I mean, not for everybody, but I think they're going up too quickly.
So you personally don't have any problems paying for tuition?
Not at this moment. Maybe I will have it next year, but I mean, I support what they do because I think the studies should be for free. I mean, if we do it in Latin America, which is we are poor countries, and they're for free, why not here? Then in Canada, we're supposed to have, we're a first world country,
And so what do you think would happen if the tuition fees went up?
Well, a lot of people is gonna start dropping out because there's not that much money to study. Still, with the ones who have a loan from the government, they cannot afford it because it's not enough.
And for you personally, do you think you'd have trouble affording the tuition?
As I told you, not at this moment, but maybe next year I'm gonna have trouble. But that's why I have to support it right now. You never know.
All right. The tuition fees were too high at this moment.
No, tuition fees are actually perfect right now.
Perfect. Yeah.
In comparison to everywhere else?
Yeah.
Definitely.
They're nice.
We have a pretty good...
Half the price of Prince Edward Island tuition fees. So I like it.
So what do you think so you have no financial difficulties paying tuition fees?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, in comparison to everything else, it's pretty good, but I still have trouble paying it off. They got to raise the loans and bursaries again and not decline, like they decrease them, and that's what's making tuition a little bit hard to pay. The tuition itself is not expensive, but it's hard to pay when loans and bursaries are cut.
I also think that loans and bursaries should be open to students from other provinces, not just people from Quebec. And if there's more, then that should be possible.
And so what do you think would happen if tuition fees went up?
Ooh, there'd be a decline in admissions, that's for sure, and I think it would make the market a little less competitive, I think. So.
I think people would stop taking full course loads. People would have to go full or part-time.
Yeah, I don't think it would stop people from going to university, but I think that they would start to take less courses and try to manage their money a little bit better.
Excuse me, sirs. I was wondering if you thought the tuition fees were too high at this moment.
I think it's too high. I think there's a lot of sacrifice to go to school because it's high. That we have to go work, and if we take loans or bursaries, well, we're not guaranteed to find a job after school, so it's risky.
Well, my opinion is, I mean, in comparison to a lot of other schools, it isn't as high, although it's a sacrifice, nevertheless, you know. I just think that, I mean, a lot of things that are happening in the schools and in the university systems, I mean, a lot of our problems and stuff, you can blame the government. They're not taxing anybody else, and they're taxing, you know, the little people and not taxing the big guys there, and that's why we have problems. But that's just my opinion.
So do you personally have any problems paying your tuition fees?
Well, I haven't paid them yet, but the money's coming, so, you know. Although, well, no, not really.
How about
just everything else? All my other bills aren't getting paid.
I've paid my tuition, but I think I'm having a little problem to pay them because I have to work to pay them. And by working, I'm getting tired when I have to study, so for homework and all that, it doesn't get that easy. So, I mean, it's hard. It's doable, but it's hard.
So it's hard to balance it out?
Yeah.
What do you think would happen if the tuition fees go up for you people?
Well, it's going to go up, more the rich people are going to be able to go study, and the less rich are going to have more trouble to go study. So it's going to non-balance for the next years. It's not going to balance. The people who are not rich won't have a chance to be educated and have their chance in life for the next years.
How about for you personally, though?
For me, if it goes up, well, if I could be able to have loans, I mean, I would still go to school, but it will be more and more risky to a point that maybe I'll have to sacrifice school one day if it gets to. But for now, I think if they go up, maybe I'll be able, but not easily.
What do you think would happen if it did?
Well, for like me myself, I mean, like, okay, I'm almost through with school now, so I mean, I'm a little bit almost happy about that. Although it's exactly as he said, it is it's a great financial, like sacrifice, you know. I mean, and everything adds up, so you know, it would be a lot harder.
For you personally, yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our studios. And in our studios, we have Deborah Murray from the International Students Association. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and you? Good. I was just wanting to ask us some questions about who and what are the Canadian Federation of Students.
Well, they're a pan-Canadian student organization that focus on both lobbying efforts and activism. Various student associations at undergraduate and graduate levels are members across the country to the CFS.
Yeah. What are their demands specifically?
Well, right now the Canadian Federation of Students are actually putting forth that we maintain the freeze on tuition fees, and that we stop the cuts to education. Those are the two primary ones across the country. As you get into different provinces, they may have a varying or additional kinds of demands for here. For example, they are endorsing the cégep level students' demand to abolish the Code R, which is actually a way in which universities are trying to average out student grades and then pick from the cream of the crop, leaving a whole range of students excluded from university level education. So.
Oh, yeah. And how popular is it throughout Canada?
The CFS? Yeah. They're pretty widespread. I think that right now they have something like 800,000 student members, and they continue lobbying to help build on different campuses and add to that number. So.
Well, there was a march and political action October 24th. How was it?
Well, it turned out to be very good. Here in Montreal, we did a coalition effort with not only the CFS and other student groups at Concordia and McGill, but we also joined together with students from CEGEPs around Montreal area.
Oh, yeah. And where was it held?
It was held at Phillips Square. We started there. We went on a march and went by, for example, Revenue Canada, where the symbology of that was to challenge the federal government on its cuts to the transfer payments. Essentially, the transfer payments are the bulk of funding that go to the provinces, out of which the provinces fund education. So first level was federal government making the cuts there, and on the march, the focus was to challenge the federal government in cutting the transfer payments. The second stop, in terms of symbology, was at the Hydro-Quebec offices, where Premier Lucien Bouchard has his office, and we obviously have a bone to pick with him because he's been cutting the education budget here. So, and they recently announced a $700 million cut to the education budget in the upcoming academic years. So it's something that we really want to challenge the governments on, both federal and provincial as well.
Did you get a lot of attention considering the amount of people that were in the march? Or?
Yeah, I think it was a twofold focus. One was to try and pressure the government and to, let the medias know about that in the Montreal area, about the action, to get the word out, not only to government, but also to other students and other community activists and labor activists who are also fighting back against the cuts in other areas like healthcare or social services, that kind of thing.
Well, did you get a lot of media attention, though? I mean, around?
I'm not sure exactly how much. I didn't watch all the news reports.
Right.
I didn't get home in time to rush home and catch the news. But I do know that it was covered in both the print and recorded media here, radio and television. So we did manage to get the word out. And we had about, as I said earlier, 2,000 came out to join us on the day of the demonstration altogether. So it's a good start, good starting point in the actions this year.
So were you satisfied about the whole outcome of it?
Yeah, I think I've been involved in organizing the last two CFS Days of Action here out of Concordia. And while this one is, how it was different, I guess, from the last couple, were that I think the level of anger is higher among students. There's a greater degree of frustration out there. And I think that there's a real sense that we have to do something about that. Day of Action is only one small way of doing that. It can't be the sole, action, sole effort, but it is one way.
Did you organize other rallies or demonstrations among the CFS?
Well, here in Montreal, for example, there's an effort to link up with community and labor activists to cover the whole gamut of cuts, education, healthcare, social services. So a lot of networking is currently being done to try and link up with those efforts, with other groups who are facing the same kind of cuts from the same sources.
Yeah.
So
it affects all of us.
Yeah.
What is your next move and when?
Well, part of it is to continue the effort of networking. Other parts of it were that, for example, after the student demonstration on October 24th here, there was a Student Day of Action in Toronto on the 25th. In fact, the whole week was a Pan-Canadian week of actions that took place. It started last Monday out in Saskatchewan. The Maritime provinces had their actions on the Tuesday. There was actions in other locations on the Wednesday. Here, Thursday and Friday, it was in Toronto. And in Toronto, a lot of students from Montreal actually went down to join the action on the Friday because it was part of a broader protest from community, social activists, and labor in a general strike action that happened on Friday, and a big massive rally against Premier Mike Harris on the Saturday afternoon that drew a couple 100,000 people out in the streets. So students participated in that effort in Ontario, and so we're trying to make the links not only locally, but provincially, cross-province and across the country. So there's a real strong focus on trying to link efforts. Now here in Montreal, our next action is coming up on this Tuesday, October the 29th. And that's an effort that's being largely organized by what's called the Coalition for the Survival of Social Programs. And that involves student, community, and labor activists as well. Yeah. And the significance of that day is that it's the very first day of the Parti Québécois Socioeconomic Summit here in Montreal, which will run for three days, beginning on the 29th. Okay. And that evening, at 5 o'clock, there's going to be a what they call a soupe populaire. Essentially, one of the community groups is going to be distributing soup to highlight the increased poverty and to show that it affects how people can even do things like feed themselves or put roofs over their heads. It's really quite dramatic the way the cuts are affecting people's lives.
But who are they going to give the soup to? Are they going to give it
It'll be available for all those who are going to be protesting at the socioeconomic summit. So that starts at 5, and the rally will be going for the rest of the evening after that.
Okay. How's your publicity? You have a big do you have a lot of publicity for those rallies? Or?
Well, I think what we tried to do with the student demonstration was to use the day to distribute leaflets, such as this one, which gave the details of the evening protests, and through the various and sundry community groups that have been involved in it, they've been getting the word out to their memberships and sending press releases out to the media. Okay. So the word's been spreading. There's postering going on up around the city, so you can look for posters. You'll see signs of it.
Yeah. Okay. So. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about the CFS?
Well, yeah, I think that one of the demands that, whether we're part of student groups, community, or labor, has been that we're trying to say that the argument the government is making right now is that we have to tighten our belts, we have to accept cutbacks, we have to pay higher tuition fees, essentially close down hospitals and all the kind of cutbacks that we've been faced with. And our argument is that no, we don't. People before us have fought long and hard to get these types of social security safety nets in place, and it's a real whittling away of all of that safety net that probably our grandparents fought for quite hard, because they knew what it was like to go without these kind of things. And the argument the government is raising is that it's because of the deficit, and most of us are arguing that the social services and education budgets, they actually amount to a total of only 6% of the deficit. So we're saying, why is there such a strong axe coming down on those who can least afford to pay right now? Yeah. And we're saying, switch the focus, turn it around onto, for example, the banks and the corporations who are getting away with paying either no taxes or being in a position of where they can defer taxes from one year to the next, and in that way they're never paying taxes. Exactly. So we're saying that we have to shift priorities around, and that you have to look to the wealthiest right now in Canadian society to really pay their share. So.
I wish you people good luck with those voices. What could I do to help, though, if I wanted to get involved?
Right. Well, there's a number of ways. One of the ways that the CFS is trying to do right now is to lobby government efforts. So if people are interested in writing letters to the government, they can contact the CFS. At Concordia, they just have to call 848-7900 and get more information that way. Other activist efforts are going to be coming up. Yeah. As I mentioned, there's the Tuesday night action at the Parti Québécois Socioeconomic Summit, and all of those who've been participating in these actions will be assessing where we're going to go from here. For example, some of the local cégeps are actually going into general strike. Right. The Mouvement pour le droit à l'éducation, otherwise known as MDE. They're a grouping of largely cégep students, largely based in the Francophone cégeps, and they've actually put out the call for general strike at the cégep level. Now, I know that, for example, Cégep Saint-Laurent are supposed to be going out as of the beginning of the socioeconomic summit. and others are, holding referendums to determine when and where they'll actually go out. So.
Okay, and if I want to join in, I would just...
Yeah, at Concordia, you can contact either the group that I'm involved with, which is the International Social Students Association, or you can contact the CFS. And those are really, two key ways to right now find out about activism, if that's what people are interested in, and I would really encourage that.
And what's the phone number again?
At the CFS, it's 848-7900.
Okay. Thank you very much for your cooperation, and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Right? Yeah.